All right, we're going to go and head started. And if other people join a little bit later, that's all right too. Well, my name is Anastasia. I am a dietetic intern with Gator Care. Next week is actually my last week, so I'll be a registered dietitian in just a couple of weeks. So that's some exciting things for me. But today we're going to be talking about navigating social dining with ease. And it seems like such a simple concept, but a lot of people do struggle with eating out and eating socially. So today we're going to be addressing all those things and some barriers and some tips to navigate social dining with ease. So just some objectives for today. After this presentation, you will understand the importance of having food at gatherings. You'll be able to list at least 3 barriers to healthy eating during social events, know how to implement mindful eating principles during social gatherings, and be able to come up with a healthy dish to bring to a get-together. And here's a table of content for today. So kind of goes along with the objectives, and plus we'll talk a little bit at the end of how to navigate social dining during COVID, and we'll open the floor for some questions at the end. So first of all, we all know 4th of July is coming around the corner. It's going to be this weekend, and food is such a big part of any celebration, and especially 4th of July. So I want to know from you, if you want to put it in the chat, what dishes or snacks do you plan on cooking, buying, making, or having on that day? Maybe I'll get some ideas from you. Because I'm definitely going to a barbecue party, so any ideas would be helpful. But also, maybe if you're not celebrating this year, what have you done in the past? Wow, bison burgers. Some fresh watermelon, yes, I think they might be in season. Yes, lots of fruit, that's amazing. The fruit is gonna help you stay hydrated. Shrimp boil, that's awesome. Wow, some of you are like really chefs. That's awesome. Yeah, so as you can see, food is probably going to be at the party that you're going to be attending or hosting. So that brings me to the importance of having and sharing food at parties. So what are some reasons that you can think of to include food at family parties, social gatherings with friends, or at a work event? So why would a food even be at any kind of events? So just kind of getting your thoughts. If you want to also put it in the chat. Yes, hungry. Everyone gets hungry. That's definitely for sure. Just because, yes, yes. Those are all great reasons. So I have 3 reasons that I put together for you that we can share, and some of you already touched on those. So the first one being is that food is a basic necessity. We all need to eat to survive and for our body to function, just like we need to drink water. And probably if you think to some of your past experiences, you probably have been to a very long event that didn't offer food, and very likely you probably got hangry because people typically need to eat every 2 to 6 hours for our body to function properly. And then the second reason is that food builds connections, and someone mentioned that in the chat. And going out to eat is not only a great way to meet new people, but also an excuse and a reason to reconnect with family, friends, and people have conversations during a meal sharing experience. And even food itself can be an easy conversation starter for a lot of people. And the last reason is that food is a way to show hospitality, and serving food to guests is a way to give back and do something nice for others, but also it can be a way used as a way to impress others. Like if you have a significant other over for dinner, or a family or friends, and you just want to show them how good of a cook you are and what you can do for them. That's another way to have some food around. So now on to the barriers to eating healthy at social gatherings. And my question for you is, can you think of some barriers that make it hard to eat healthy and balanced when at a gathering or an event or a party? And it can be something from a personal experience, or maybe someone you know that struggles with eating healthy and balanced at gatherings, or maybe something that you've read on the internet or heard. Yes, not wanting to decline food. Exactly, that was one of my barriers that I put together. Yes, no healthy options. Yes, all of these are definitely barriers that can make it hard to eat balanced and healthy and not overeat. All right. Oh. So first barrier is lack of healthy options. A lot of times healthy options are more expensive, they're harder to prepare, they're time consuming to cook, and less filling. So if you think about buying a salad for 30 people with all the fresh vegetables, it might be even more expensive than just buying some pizza for people, and it might not fill them up as much. And sometimes when you go to parties, you don't even have a choice of what is being served. It's good when you're coming to like a family get together, when you can bring some food, or you're hosting a party, then it's a little bit easier. But a lot of times at different events, you really don't have a choice. And the second barrier is too many options to choose from. And I'm sure you've all been to a gathering with a buffet style dining where all options look so good and you feel like you have to try everything. And that might be because it's the food that you typically don't eat at home, and it all looks so appetizing and visually pleasing, and you think like you need to make the most of it because you are not going to try these things again. And the third barrier is restricting food prior to event. And what do I mean by that? There's definitely a temptation to restrict food before or after the social event to almost make up for eating more than usual or indulging in some higher calorie foods. So you might be thinking, oh, I'm gonna go all out at the event, so I should restrict prior to event so I have that leeway of calories left. But that kind of leads to the cycle of dieting. And the cycle of dieting consists of restriction, cravings and hunger, binge, overeating, and guilt and shame. And then the cycle kind of continues. So let's kind of look at the typical example. So you might be thinking before an event, here with in the restriction section, you might be thinking, I am going to follow a strict diet or restrict some food to make up for overeating on bad foods later on. So you go about your day restricting the food, not allowing yourself to eat as much as you do usually. So you build up those cravings and the hunger, and you just can't stop thinking of food. And then when you go to an event, you see all the abundance of food and you think, when will I get to eat all of this again? Might as well indulge all the way. So maybe you overeat more than your body needed. And then that can kind of lead to a lot of guilt talk and thoughts of shame and thinking, I shouldn't have eaten all of that. I feel stuffed and lethargic. And after that, you think to yourself, well, maybe I'll restrict a bit more after I've eaten all this food to make up for it. So you can see kind of how the cycle just continues on and on with all the social gatherings. The fourth barrier is food can be a coping mechanism. And with different environment and social interactions, All of that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety. And even after having to isolate for COVID purposes for several years, that can create a lot of social anxiety of being around people again. And you might find yourself engaging in some emotional eating as a way to distract yourself or help yourself cope with emotions. And it might be really hard to check in with your true internal hunger and fullness cues when there's so much happening around you and you're just trying to process a lot of your emotions. And the fifth and the last barrier that I put on this presentation is accepting food when full. And that is because peer pressure is real. And we don't want to seem rude or ungrateful to the host of the party. So we just take more and think it's going to be all right and we'll overeat for once. And saying no for a lot of people can be very difficult. So those are all valid barriers that people face when eating out. So now I want to share some tips with you for eating out with balance and how to have moderation and enjoy all the things you do when going out and spending time with family, friends, and other people, but still eating without feeling that uncomfortable feeling afterwards. So the first step, and I have 8 steps here. So the first step would be to set a clear intention. And what do I mean by that? So asking yourself, what do you hope to experience at the event? Do you want to catch up with friends you haven't seen in a while? Then focus on the socializing. If you're going to an event to celebrate a wedding of your family member, focus on those fun activities. And maybe you're just going to your favorite restaurant with some of your friends to enjoy delicious food, then focus on savoring each bite and really be in the present moment. So you can see that physical nourishment might not be the primary priority for a lot of social events, and that is okay. Sometimes enjoyment can be the priority too, and just being aware of what the intention is and why you're there at an event and really being present in your body and experiencing all the fun things that there are. Step 2 is to nourish your body before and after the event. And it's important to have balanced meals with protein, carbs, and fat to keep you satiated. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like a little later on. But that also includes avoiding guilt talk and restrictions, avoiding all or nothing mentality. So thinking I will have no food now and then binge later. So trying to avoid that and remembering that one high calorie meal will not change anything. Going out to eat with friends is not gonna ruin your weight loss progress or ruin your diet. So it's okay to enjoy those meals once in a while. Step 3 is to not come to an event starving. So it's important to have some sort of nourishing snack before you go to an event, especially if you're already starting to feel that hunger. Eating something will help you make rational and thoughtful food choices at the event. And a good snack would look something like a yogurt with nuts and fruits, a veggie sticks with hummus, or avocado toast with an egg. So something small that's not like a full meal, but something that will keep you satiated until you get to an event and until you're ready to look for what options they have at the event. And that brings me to step 4, practicing mindful eating during the event. So when you're at an event, being present in your body and having that intention of why you came to that event and implementing some of the mindful eating principles that I outlined here. So the first one is expressing gratitude for the meal and taking time to enjoy that meal. And that might look like sitting at a table with other people eating and enjoying the meal together and being grateful for that meal sharing experience and being present and using your senses. So really noticing what the food tastes like, what the food smells like, how the texture of the food feels in your mouth. So really being present with all your senses. And another principle is to take smaller bites and chewing slowly to really savor each bite. And the last one is tuning into your hunger and fullness cues. And what are those hunger and fullness cues? So there's what's called the hunger fullness scale. So it's a scale from 0 to 10 that kind of shows you where you can be based on your hunger and fullness feelings. So the goal is to be within a 3 to 7 line numbers. And because most people need to eat every 3 to 4 hours. So you don't want to go too ravenously hungry, and you don't want to go on the opposite spectrum of being stuffed. So those 0, 1, and 2 would look like being dizzy, being very distracted, irritable, having a headache. So you definitely want to avoid that. So starting to eat when you're starting to feel those hunger cues, when maybe you are getting a bit of a, like your stomach growling, so some sensation in your body that your body needs some food. And you want to stop when you are comfortably full and you don't want to pass that point of being uncomfortable. And a lot of times satiety comes with time. So that's why it's important to eat very slowly and chew very thoroughly, because the satiety comes, it can come 20 minutes after you eat. So it's important to take that time to really process, how full am I? And if you want to know more about mindful eating and how to implement it in your life, and really some practical tools, we have this interactive presentation on the Gator Care website. So if you go to the wellness topics under nutrition, there will be a mindful eating presentation that is very engaging and fun to do. If you have time, you can learn more about that. And now on to step 5. So step 5 is how to have balance at the event. So you might be indulging in some foods that you don't normally eat, and that's okay. Just remembering what a healthy plate looks like and just keeping that in your mind when you're picking different choices at the event. So a healthy plate would look something like having half of your plate filled with fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate with whole grains, and another quarter of your plate with healthy proteins, and remembering to hydrate, of course, with water. So just keeping that in mind. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's all about moderation. And if there are options from each of these categories, it's good to fill that plate, because it'll keep you more satiated and you'll get some nourishment from that as well if you include some fruits and vegetables on your plate. And that brings me to step 6, assessing all options before loading your plate. So especially with the buffet style events, there might be a lot of different options to choose from, and there's a temptation to put everything on the plate before even assessing all the options. So if you could take a moment to just look around or walk around the food and kind of see what are the few things that you really want to try, and putting maybe 3 or 4 options on your plate rather than stuffing your plate, because you can always come for seconds if you're still hungry. And step 7 is to set boundaries. It's okay to say no to food if you're full or don't want it. Nobody's gonna be mad at you or be offended. So it's okay to set boundaries and say no sometimes. And last step, step 8, is to watch out for liquid calories. most liquid options at parties are often high in sugar and calories. And if you think of a typical alcoholic cocktail, it's just alcohol and sugar, which comes to empty calories that have not really much nutritional value. So you're not really getting much physical satiation from that. So choosing water over beverages to stay hydrated when you can is really important. And just to put it all in perspective, let's say on a typical day when you have an event in the evening, you wake up, you have an orange juice. Then somewhere in the middle of the day, you go and get a mocha latte. And then you go to an event and start with a sweet tea or soda, and then finish it off by the end of the evening with 2 beers, let's say. So all of that together already puts you at half or more of your daily energy needs from just the beverages, regardless of how much food you ate that day. So kind of just being mindful that liquid calories can add up, and remembering that if you can pick a water over some other beverages, that will only benefit your body. And now onto the topic of bringing healthy options to share. So if you do choose to bring something to an event, that will help you have some control of what food is available, because you can choose to bring some healthy options. So just some ideas out there, starting very simple with just some snacks that you can bring. It could be either a veggie tray with hummus or like a tzatziki dip, or if it's a barbecue, you can bring some veggie skewers, and same with a fruit tray or fruit skewers, just to make it a little bit more COVID friendly, so you don't have to pick from the same plate. You can do like the skewers, so it's kind of like individually portioned out. And some other ideas, you can bring some whole wheat crackers or chips with some chunky salsa to get that additional fiber in there from those veggies in the salsa and the whole grains, so to keep you, again, satiated. You could also do some roasted chickpeas or bring some popcorn with spices. So again, a little bit more filling snacks. And if you don't mind a bit more prep, you can bring some mini individual sandwiches on whole wheat bread with protein and veggies. Or you can get a little more creative and do some fish or chicken tacos that people can enjoy, and that would be almost like a full meal. And lastly, we'll talk about some responsible social gatherings during COVID. So very important because COVID is still around. So I wanted to share some tips for safe practices when dining out. So we'll start with using disposable utensils and plates, or bringing your own. You can also bring something, you can bring your utensils from home, or maybe have disposable ones at the event. Bringing small bites that are portioned individually to avoid food sharing. So again, you can portion it in small cups or already plated out, so that to avoid kind of grabbing from the same place. And wearing a mask unless you're eating and practicing social distancing. So at this point, that's a common sense, but you know, just putting it out there. And then cleaning and disinfecting dining surfaces and your hands pretty regularly, just to, you know, kill the bacteria and the microbes. And another tip is to use serving utensils to avoid touching the food. So if you do have a big plate where people are grabbing from, having those serving utensils so that people don't grab it with their hands. And a very basic one is staying home or rescheduling your event if you're not feeling well. And these are just kind of example ideas of how you can portion out different things to make it a little bit more COVID friendly. Here at the left top corner, I have a little bit of a July 4th themed dessert. And then you can use toothpicks to make it individually portioned and people can grab it easily. And you can make all the kinds of dips with just veggies and sauces in individual cups. And this is pretty much all the information, and I would really appreciate if you fill out the survey. If you want to scan it with your phone, the barcode that we have at the bottom here, once you fill out the survey there and submit it at the thank you page, I put like a downloaded 10-page visual guide with recipes and bonus tools. So it's kind of like a 10-page really practical guide that summarizes everything we talked about today, but also gives some recipe ideas and actual links to recipes for different things that you can implement during your social gathering event. And you can print this guide and have it and you bring it anywhere with you if you needed. Yeah, and any questions? I know I skimmed through everything super fast. I was worried we would run out of time, but I guess we have some time for questions. Yes, thank you for asking that. I will be sending out an email after this presentation that has a link to the survey. So well, after this presentation, you'll receive an email from me and you'll be able to click on the actual survey link if you weren't able to access the barcode scan. Any other questions? I tried to be pretty thorough. That's awesome, Abby. I'm glad you have some ideas for 4th of July. So hopefully that didn't take too much time off your lunch break. All right, I have some questions. If there are only unhealthy options offered at the event, do you suggest drinking water while others dine? No, absolutely. I don't think that if everybody's eating food and it might not be the most healthiest option, don't just drink water, still enjoy the food, but again, implement those mindful eating principles of really tuning into your hunger and fullness sensations and being present and enjoying every bite and understanding when you should stop when you're getting full, but you can still enjoy a lot of different things, and you can bring some healthy options with you. So yeah, definitely everything is good in moderation. So you can still enjoy all the delicious food, just kind of having in the back of your mind, just remembering that if you can add some more fruits and vegetables to your plate, if you can remember to drink more water, if you remember to being present like with your meal and really enjoying it, then that'll set you up for success.